W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Citizens of West Alabama, have you heard the news? The Bank of Moundville, which was established way back in 1907, offers personal loans of all sizes, unsecured and secured, with competitive interest rates. You can contact them today at 205-371-2227. Once again, that is the Bank of Moundville, 205-371-2227, or go by and see them in downtown Moundville. They are an equal housing lender and a member of the FDIC. You guys are locked in on the best show going today, baby, the Stingray Show, and we are 3 days from the start of the college baseball season. LSU great and Major League Baseball great Ben McDonald will join us on this edition of the Stingray Show to talk all things SEC baseball, and we are also going to talk a little round ball of college basketball. That's all ahead on this edition of the Stingray Show. Let's get things rocking and rolling.
Hi, this is Tim Brando with a reminder. Those of you on Tide 100.9, look out. You're about to feel the buzz of Stingray.
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
I'm Heath Hopkins. I'm here in DeSoto County, Mississippi, right outside of Memphis, Tennessee. You know, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you feel that responsibility to pay it forward and give some kid a chance coming up in the ranks, kind of like Tony did for you?
Why do you think I'm talking to Stingray tonight?
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
No, I mean, look, no.
Hey, Stingray, here's the deal. When you get involved with Texas, it's like getting married to a stripper. and let me explain this. It looks good. It's kind of sexy on the surface. Yeah. But then you get the baggage. You get the drama. You get all that eventually comes with it. And that's what you get with Texas, and that's what the Big 12 learned.
And Heath, any thoughts on our show moving forward?
Hey, to everyone in Tuscaloosa listening here on Tide 100.9. With the Stingray Show, if you don't like it, you better learn to love it, because it's the best show going today, baby. Woo!
And ladies and gentlemen, with all of that, we want to welcome you inside yet another edition of the Stingray Show. Heath, how are you doing on this hump day?
Ash Wednesday, brother. Hey, we're here, Mardi Gras. You know, Ash Wednesday, we remember all the loved ones that we lost in the past year. And so I want to wish a very happy Wednesday, Ash Wednesday to everybody. And we're approaching Easter, and we're also approaching March Madness and college baseball, baby.
And don't forget, Heath, it is also Valentine's Day.
Oh, what? That's today? I'm joking.
So, Heath, I do know that it is Wednesday, just like we talked about. However, I want to go back to Saturday just for a second and talk a little college basketball, because it was a very, very tough weekend for teams on the road, especially the Auburn Tigers and the Tennessee Volunteers, as both teams were ranked and lost on the road to unranked teams in very, very bad performances. The Auburn Tigers lost down at Florida 81-65, and Tennessee lost on the road to Texas A&M 85-69. And I was just going to go ahead and say this, Heath. We are seeing the same old story from Rick Barnes and Tennessee as they move through the season. They're starting to get a little inconsistent, and that is one of the reasons that Rick Barnes was let go by Texas, is because the later you go into the season, the more inconsistencies that coach has.
You know, I think Rick Barnes is a phenomenal coach. I won't say anything bad about him, but it's fair to say that. It is fair to say that. I think Rick Barnes teaches at a high level. I think he's very intense. And, you know, you can't stay intense the entire time. You want your teams to be building and getting better and better as the season ends. I mean, look at Alabama football this past year. I don't like comparing, contrasting different sports, but Alabama got the beginning of the year in football not good, and they were one play away from making the national championship game, and I would say winning the national title. So I mean, they definitely got better throughout the season. You want your teams to kind of be peaking. We've seen this before. I remember those great Florida teams with Billy Donovan when they won the national title. They had some inconsistencies at some times as well, and they still won the national title. So that's just part of it. You can't stay intense all the time. I mean, that's why we celebrate undefeated seasons. I mean, Memphis almost had an undefeated season a couple of years ago. That's been, in the last 10 years? Mm-hmm. And they lost the final game in the national championship in overtime to Kansas. I mean, they went something like 41-1, whatever the record was. So, that's just, it is what it is, man. Am I writing off Tennessee yet? Not yet. Right. If there's a major injury, I would just write them off. But I'm not writing them off just yet.
All right, Heath, let me also say this. I'm going to give you 2 trivia nuggets. The first one is when the AP poll came out on Monday, did you happen to see the shocker of the year in college basketball?
I did not. What was it?
Indiana State is ranked in the AP poll for the first time since 1978.
Whoa. I did not. I would have thought they've been ranked multiple times. They've had some good seasons. They've advanced in the tournament, so I would have thought they'd have been ranked. Hey, if you don't know, you should. You know who was on that 78 Indiana State team?
Larry Bird.
Larry Joe Bird, the living legend Larry Bird. You dang right. And that team was super awesome. Just over the top phenomenal. Took them all the way to the national championship game and should have beaten Michigan State for the national title. Some guy named Irvin Magic Johnson stopped him. I wonder what happened to those two guys.
All right. Do you want an even bigger shocker?
Sure.
Okay. The last 3 home games for the Blue Blood in the SEC is Florida 94-91, Tennessee 103-92, and now on Saturday, Gonzaga 89, Kentucky 85. That is the first 3-game losing streak at home for the Kentucky Wildcats at Rupp Arena. Get this, Heath, since 1966.
I don't know anybody on that 66 team, but I guarantee Adolph Rupp was still coaching them. Wow, that's crazy, Stephen. That's really insane. Pat Riley might have been on one of those teams. I don't know how old Pat Riley is, but he might have been on one of those teams.
So, Heath, before we go to break, I do want to break this down briefly. Coming up right after we end in 30 minutes at 7:30 on the SEC Network, it is South Carolina with 3 losses, ranked 11th at the Jungle down at Auburn to take on 13th ranked Auburn, and Auburn comes into this game with 5 losses. That is going to be a barn burner for sure at 7:30 on the SEC Network. The Gamecocks and the Tigers from Auburn Arena down there at the Jungle.
Stephen, who would have ever thought South Carolina would be number 1 in the conference right now in standings?
Yep.
I would think Auburn might have been, but South Carolina at 9-2, Bama's tied with them, but South Carolina's got the tiebreaker. Auburn there in 3rd place, followed by Tennessee in 4th, then Kentucky. Yes. So that's just crazy. It's just crazy.
And dude, I'm going to say this. I give the edge to Auburn because they're playing at home. If that game was at South Carolina after the way Florida beat down Auburn on the road, I would have to go with South Carolina. But since it's at the Jungle, I'm going with Auburn edging out South Carolina.
Fair enough. It's completely fair. We're waiting for March Madness. Stephen, it's been madness all season in the SEC in basketball. It's been nothing but madness. If that's just a precursor This is going to be one of the greatest March Madness, best SEC tournaments we'll ever see. Hey, Stephen, before we head to break, I'm going to put you on the spot real quick. I know we didn't do a Fave 5 this segment, but guess what? It's Valentine's Day. I'm going to throw out an anti-Valentine song just for you. I had it played at my wedding. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, I Hate Myself for Loving You. No, I'm joking. I didn't have that played at my wedding.
Right. That's awesome. All right, man. Well, on that note, Heath, we are going to stop talking about college basketball and transition into something that starts on Friday. Ben McDonald will join us on the other side of the break to look ahead to the college baseball season. That's all ahead on this edition of the Stingray Show. We will be right back with LSU great Ben McDonald.
College Spikes Award winner and number 1 overall pick in the MLB draft, Ben McDonald.
Yes, sir. We will be right back. Citizens of West Alabama, have you heard the news? The Bank of Moundville, which was established way back in 1907, offers personal loans of all sizes, unsecured and secured, with competitive interest rates. You can contact them today at 205-371-2227. Once again, that is the Bank of Moundville, 205-371-2227, or go by and see them in downtown Moundville. They are an equal housing lender and a member of the FDIC. Do you guys like to fish? I know I do, and if you have a pond or lake in your backyard that needs stocking of fish, you need to contact biologist Jeff Bagwell with Honey Hole Fisheries. He can help you stock your lake with bluegill, largemouth bass, and hybrid striped bass. You can get in touch with Jeff Bagwell and Honey Hole Fisheries at 205-799-0192. Once again, that is Honey Hole Fisheries, 205-799-0192. Contact Mr. Jeff Bagwell today and let him help you build the lake of your dreams. Do you guys dream about owning a home or a condominium down on the beautiful beaches of Alabama, say Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, or maybe even Fairhope? Then let me tell you about First Class Real Estate South Home Group's owner, Celeste Hagler. She has brokers down there in the beautiful beaches of Alabama to help you purchase the home of your dreams and to live where you love in the state of Alabama. You can contact Celeste Hagler at 205-861-5698. Contact Celeste Hagler today to help you live where you love in the state of Alabama.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We've had several accidents, all cleared out now. 3 on McFarland Boulevard. 1 was near Jack Warner Parkway. Also, an accident was cleared southbound Skyland Boulevard before McFarland.
License and bank account. Download BetU for iOS on the App Store today. Learn more about BetU by visiting their website, betu.us. That's bet.u.us.
You're listening to the home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. Tide 100.9.
Are you guys getting in the mood, West Alabama? Valentine's Day is fastly approaching, and all you need is love and coffee, and that's exactly what you'll find at Strange Brew Coffee House at 1101 University Boulevard, right there on the strip at the University of Alabama campus. And hey, they are rolling out brand new flavors for this month, including the Makeout, chocolate-covered berry, the cutie pie, drunken love, and flowers and chocolate. Go by Strange Brew Coffee House and get all of the love and coffee you so desperately deserve.
Welcome back, SEC fans. You're listening to the Stingray Show here on Tide 100.9. Stephen Stingray Ray is with us, along with me, Heath Hopkins, and we have a very special guest. Not only was he a Golden Spikes winner, he was the first overall pick in the MLB draft, had a wonderful Major League Baseball career, but he was also an All-American at LSU. You could see him on TV during baseball season, either with the Orioles or with SEC Baseball and LSU. It's the one and only, our good friend of the show, Ben McDonald. Ben, how in the world are you there in South Louisiana?
Man, I tell you, we doing good. I tell people all the time, there's only 2 seasons for me anymore. There's hunting season and there's baseball season. And one of them rolls right into the other. So we just been kind of wrapping up hunting season, getting everything put up, for the spring and the summer and got everything away. And now it's time to turn our sights to baseball. And honestly, I've been doing a lot of homework on the MLB side, getting ready for a lot of Orioles stuff, being spring training next week, in uniform with the Orioles for a week, call a couple games while I'm down there. But super excited about opening day of college baseball coming up on Friday, man. Right around 300 D1 teams will begin their journey towards Omaha on Friday. And as we know, a lot's going to change in between now and then, but excited about the SEC, excited about, Wake Forest is going to have a heck of a team this year. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to getting baseball started again.
I'm going to put you on the spot super quick. What's your favorite, hunting season or baseball season?
Wow. That's a tough one. I use hunting season, honestly, as a way to recharge the batteries, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Getting away from the grind. And, I did over 140 games last year on TV, counting Orioles stuff and college baseball stuff. So it was a busy year for me in a lot of ways. So that's kind of why my relaxing, it used to be about having to kill something, to be honest with you. Now the last years, it's been more about just getting away, relaxing. If I get lucky and get one, that's a bonus. If I don't, oh, well, it's about recharging the batteries at the end of the day. So I enjoy both. I think with one, I couldn't have the other, to be honest with you. So they're my 2 favorite things to do.
There you go.
So Ben, before we dive into college baseball, I want to go back to last year briefly. I want to get your take. How surprised were you in the major league side of things that the Texas Rangers won it all? I did not see that coming.
Look, I don't think anybody saw it coming. And I don't think anybody saw the into the World Series either. If you go back and look at it, let's look at 2 things. One, the Texas Rangers had a below 500 record on the road last year. And they were a wild card. They had to go on the road. They started the final week of the regular season 2 games in front in the American League Western Division to win the title. They floundered down the stretch and were past the Astros. And so if you look at those 2 things, you went, okay, the Rangers aren't playing well and they have to go on the road where they've been a below 500 team. You go, okay, there's really no chance for the Rangers to make a deep run because over 162 games, this is what we've seen. Well, lo and behold, they get on this fabulous run. They go into Tampa Bay. They sweep the Rays. They come into Baltimore. They really work on us, and they just kind of took off. If you look at Arizona Diamondbacks, when's the last time a team that was negative in the run differential, in other words, they gave up more runs than what they scored during the regular season, would end up being in the World Series? I don't think anybody would have said that, right? And then on top of that, what made the season even crazier is the 3 teams that won 100 or more games last year in Major League Baseball that most people thought was the favorites, the Braves, Orioles, they go a combined 1-9 in the playoffs. Who saw that coming? So crazy year. It almost felt like, Stingray, to answer your question, it almost felt like March Madness for me in a lot of ways.
I agree.
What's going to happen? So I will say this as we get off this subject. Being your division winner almost felt like a penalty last year. You got 5 days off, like the Orioles, the Braves, and the Dodgers all got 5 days off. Baseball players aren't made to get that many days off. In other words, even for the All-Star break, all you get is 3 or 4 days off when you're playing for these guys got 5 days off. I thought each one of those teams really lost some momentum going else because they had to sit out. So I'm wondering now, is it an advantage to win your division or is it a wild card team and continue to play to keep the momentum going? I guess time will tell on that.
Yeah. Ben, Stingray always asks the weather questions, but I thought about this when you were talking. These opening weekend games, they're always crazy weather. And I've sat in some baseball games where it was 30 degrees out there and it was miserable. Up in Missouri, we see snow delays at times this time of year. What is the worst weather, cold-wise, that you ever played in?
Oh, wow.
What's one that comes to mind? Like, man, that was a miserable day.
At Kentucky, in April in Lexington back in 1988, my sophomore year, was a brutal time. I can remember it got so cold they actually started a fire in the press box. An old wooden press box. They had a big old garbage can. They started a fire. It was so cold in there just to try to keep warm. I think like the game time temperature was like 28 degrees for a day game with the wind blowing. It's the kind of day that, I mean, honestly, you sweat and you a little bit in warm-ups, but I can remember that game where I pitched 7 innings and never sweated again. Like it was, I kept telling myself, hey, I'm the warmest guy on the field. I'm the warmest guy on the field. I'm moving the most. But look, baseball players, to answer your question, baseball players are used to playing in all kind of different weather conditions. It's just kind of what we do. We have delays. Right. It could be cold early in the year. It could be really hot in the middle part of the year, depending on where you are. So I think baseball players in a lot of ways are the most versatile group of athletes we have. You get the rain delays mixed in time to time, all kinds of delays, but yet baseball players figure out a way to play through it all. It's not easy. It's difficult to play in the cold weather, but also I'll tell you the hitters don't want to hit either. When it's really cold
That's
out,
right.
Play either. So I always felt like mentally, I try to tell myself I have the advantage to try to get through it.
So, Ben, overall, this SEC baseball season, give us your thoughts on how the season is going to shape out in the SEC.
Wow. It just seems like a gauntlet again, just looking at it. You know, I mean, we go back and look, and then I went back and looked. The last 14 College World Series champions, 9 of them have been SEC teams. So the SEC's won 9 of the last 14. The SEC has played for 13 of the last 14 national championships. They've won the last 4 and 5 of the last 6. I don't anticipate that being any different at all this year. I fully expect there to be an SEC team in the finals this year, and I expect the SEC to be right there when it's said and done. Now, Wake Forest could throw a big clog in that. We know that. I mean, Wake Forest is number 1, and they should be. I mean, because of their starting rotation they're bringing back. I mean, Josh Hartle and Michael Massey was already there, and you're going to get Chase Burns, who transferred from Tennessee into Wake Forest, and you got to give Wake Forest the advantage when it comes to being the number 1 team in the pitching. I think they're the best pitching staff in the country. They got a pretty good guy on the back end as well. There are some question marks with their offense. They lost a lot, like a lot of teams did, but they still have Nick Kurtz, who's going to be a big first rounder. They're a big giant first baseman, and so you got to lean on Wake Forest number 1 right now. But having said that, man, I tell you what. Florida, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, LSU, I think all potentially could be in the mix. And Florida, to me, you know, I think a lot hinges on Jack Caglione. Can he be a consistent starter for them? Like, we know he's going to put up the offensive numbers. We know he's the preseason Golden Spikes winner. We know that he's, preseason SEC player of the year. But the question I have, to make Florida the real team that could win it all, can Caglione carry his end as a starting pitcher? He flashed it for me last year where he was really good. We know he's got the big giant arm from the left side, but can he be over the white part of the plate enough to really be a dude for Florida this year? Look, I think every team has some question marks, right? And we won't know the answer to all this until we kind of get into conference play. And really, I start kind of seeing who the real teams are about halfway, almost a little past halfway of the SEC schedule. That's when you kind of start figuring out who's who along the way. But, I mean, South Carolina's a dark horse, and Alabama's a surprise for me, guys. I'll be honest. After losing what they lost in the transfer portal, they went guys in their ranked preseason because LSU got their Friday night guy in Luke Holman, which was a big blow. And normally when you lose your Friday night guy and he's coming back, but yet you're still ranked preseason, I think says a lot about Alabama and where they're at.
So, Ben, hold that thought because we were up against another break, and when we come back, we are going to dive further into the SEC baseball season. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. We will be right back. Are you guys getting in the mood? West Alabama, Valentine's Day is fastly approaching, and all you need is love and coffee, and that's exactly what you'll find at Strange Brew Coffee House at 1101 University Boulevard, right there on the strip at the University of Alabama campus. And hey, they are rolling out brand new flavors for this month, including the Makeout, chocolate covered berry, the cutie pie, drunken love, and flowers and chocolate. Go by Strange Brew Coffee House and get all of the love and coffee you so desperately deserve. Are you guys in the mood for community goods and great barbecue? That's what you'll find at the Coker Market, located in Coker, Alabama at the four-way intersection off of County Road 140. Their hours of operation are Wednesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until 7 p.m., and their menu items include the Midnight, which is smoked ham, smoked pork, Swiss cheese, Creole mustard, mayonnaise, and a pickle, grilled on French bread. That sandwich is absolutely amazing. Make sure you go and check out the Coker Market right there at the four-way intersection in Coker for amazing food and community goods. Your life can change on a dime, and if you are relocating for your job up to the Rocket City of Huntsville, the fastest growing city in the state of Alabama, you need to contact Celeste Hagler of First Class Real Estate South Home Group. She has brokers all over North Alabama to help you get settled with buying a new home in North Alabama. You can contact her at 205-861-5698. Once again, that is Celeste Hagler.
It's away at Birmingham Racecourse Casino, where you can be a winner too. Birmingham Racecourse Casino off I-459, exit 31 Derby Parkway. Must be 21 or older.
Never miss a moment of the action. Download the free Tide 100.9 app today.
Welcome back inside the Stingray Show. Hope all is well with you. Our guest this evening is the Golden Spikes Award winner from LSU and now an analyst on the SEC Network, Mr. Ben McDonald. And Ben, before we dive into team by team, I do want to get your thoughts on the news that broke a couple of weeks ago about the reprimand from the NCAA surrounding former Alabama head coach Brad Bohanna after the scandal from last year. Your thoughts on what the NCAA handed down for Brad Bohanna?
Well, honestly, I was shocked when it came out. Knowing Bo like I knew him, I never in a million years thought something like that would happen. I thought it was a joke when it came out, but after reading, and I didn't read a bunch about it, I just read what I read about it, but clearly, the rules were broken, obviously. I think they gave the right penalty, to be honest with you, and it is where it is for Alabama, Now, having said that, I thought the boys in that program really bounced back through the middle of all that stuff last year. Look, when you lose your head coach and there's that kind of turmoil that's swirling around, especially late in a year near postseason play, and Alabama responding like they did, is really a good sign for those kids. Those kids really came through it and said, hey, we're going to rally around each other. We're all going to kind of pull in the right direction. And so I think that was big for Alabama and their program. And look where they are today. They're ranked preseason. And it's been a while, I think, since Alabama's been. And so they've overcome a lot here recently. I hate it for Bo because, like I said, I always thought Brad Bohanna was a good guy, and I still think he is. And clearly he's made some mistakes, and it was a huge mistake that he made, and we all know that. And I wish Bo the best, man, and I hope this passes for him at some point. I don't know if he ever gets another opportunity to coach again. I hope he does, honestly, because I think everybody deserves a second chance once he served his suspension or whatever's going on. And so maybe we'll see Bo surface again at some point in time, because I do really think he's a good coach and he put together a good team at Alabama. It's just unfortunate that he made a huge mistake.
Ben, a quick follow-up to that. How do you think this Alabama baseball team is going to do this season with a brand new head coach?
Well, normally when you get a new head coach, there's a lot of excitement, right? And I think the way the boys responded last year told me a lot. about what they're going into this year. They seem super focused. And we talked about some of the guys that they missed. They got hit pretty hard and lost some guys in the portal, but yet they went and picked up some guys in the portal. That's the cool thing about the portal. While I'm not a huge fan of being able to transfer every year, and that's where we are now. It's like we're the only, college sports is the only thing out there that we allow some of our players to be free agents after every year. We don't allow that in the MLB or NFL or, in the NBA. Nobody can be a free agent every year. We allow that in college sports. So while I'm not a huge fan of it, it does allow you, when you lose a lot of players or you get hit hard in the portal, to be able to go out in the portal yourself and kind of rebuild as fast as you can. And so I think that's where Alabama is. Alabama lost a lot last year, but I also think they're the kind of team that has a lot of excitement this year because of a new head coach. And look, normally when you add a new head coach for whatever reason, Skip Bertman used to always say this, when you add a new head coach to a program, it's normally good for 4 or 5 wins because of that excitement that's out there. So
right.
What happens with Alabama? They're right there, ranked 24th or 25th preseason, which is a good spot for them. I love the way they finished the year last year, kind of rallying what went on with their program last year. So we'll see where they're at. We know the West is going to be a gauntlet again, and Alabama's going to have to pitch it really well. And they've got some pieces on offense, I think, and some young guys coming in. They could end up being really good, but time will tell on that too. And we'll have to wait and see how all these teams shake out, who can stay healthy, whose freshmen really perform, and who really gets going in the end. And we should know a lot of those. We should be able to answer a lot of those questions really around about halfway through the SEC schedule.
Something we talked about briefly yesterday, and I'm going to transfer this into baseball. We talked about LSU basketball and how no one gave this team a chance at LSU basketball. You played basketball for LSU. A lot of people don't know that. And I said, that's a phenomenal coaching job. They redid that thing from scratch last year. You talked about Alabama baseball, kind of redoing it from scratch. What is another SEC team that's basically doing it from nothing? I'm going to say Georgia, and they put a lot of money in that program in the off season for NIL, but mainly for upgrades to the facilities. Is there anybody else in the SEC that you heard that's, we're not giving them a chance because we wrote them off because they lost too much last year, but they're grinding it and making it happen? Who would that team might be?
Well, I think obviously our Mississippi schools, I look to be a lot better this year, right? We know Mississippi State has had a hangover the last 2 years from winning the national title. It's not been good for Lamona's. But I would lean more towards Ole Miss, to be honest with you. One of the 2 years ago, had an awful season last year. I think they won 6 conference games or something like that last year. I expect Ole Miss, while they're not ranked preseason, nobody's giving them a whole lot of love. I look at Ole Miss as a team that could surprise some folks. Now, having said that, I heard through the grapevine, and you guys might have heard, they lost one of their weekend rotation guys already.
I haven't heard it yet, but wow.
Yeah, one of the last inter-squad games last week or whatever. And I got to confirm that I can't even remember who it was. But we had an elbow injury and potentially going to lose one of their weekend rotation guys. So that really for Ole Miss coming in, if that is true, but that's what I heard to be true. I got to confirm that. But if that's the case, but still in all, I expect Ole Miss to bounce back and be a much better team than obviously what they were last year. And it's not uncommon when you win a national championship to have a little bit of a hangover. You typically have an older team when you do that, and a lot of guys leave and turn pro or whatever, or were seniors. And so State and Ole Miss have kind of been down the last couple of years. I look for both those programs to be a lot better. And it's interesting to see what LSU can pull off this year after losing. So, you lose Paul Skeens, obviously, and Dylan Cruz and Joe Bear and Dugas and Jordan Thompson, a lot of guys. What kind of team is LSU going to have this year? And will it be a hangover for them after winning a national title? We shall see.
So, Ben, a team that nobody's talking about, and it's very quiet up there. What are your thoughts on the Tennessee Volunteers up there in Knoxville?
Well, look, Tennessee's gotten a lot of experience the last couple of years. Obviously losing Chase Burns, and that was the big talk of the off season. A guy potentially their Friday night guy, and all of a sudden he picks up and walks towards hits the portal, and there of course everybody wanted him, and he ends up at Wake Forest. But still, if you look at Tennessee, there's some nice offensive parts that are coming back for them. Tony Vitello, love him or hate him. I know he's one of these guys, right? You're either really on his side or you're really against him. I kind of like him, man. I like his spirit. fiery attitude. I like the way he coaches. And if you've ever had a chance to talk to Tony, like Tony's one of these guys, you see him on the outside and you see him on TV and how intense he is one-on-one and you're not in a ballpark. He's really kind of a low-key kind of guy, you know, and I enjoy visiting with him, but I love to see his intensity when it begins. But I expect Tennessee to be right there, too. I mean, they got some guys in that weekend rotation. Even after losing Burns, they still got a couple of guys that are going to be really strong guys. I think offensively they're going to be really good. And I think their experience factor and how successful they've been the last 2 or 3 years, it's only a matter of time before Tennessee. We know they've never won it before. They've been to Omaha here recently, but it's only a matter of time. Now, having said that, I don't know if this is their year to do that, but I certainly expect that they could be a team where they're ranked kind of right around 8 or 9 this year. I think if it breaks right for Tennessee and some of their youngsters really perform and grow up, they could be an Omaha team as well.
You know, Ben, I have not done any homework on the Kentucky Wildcats. The only thing I know is Nick Mingione, the head coach, got a super fat contract in the offseason. He was on the hot seat coming into last year, blew it out of the water, exceeded everyone's expectations. They had a pretty good year. What do you know about the Kentucky Wildcats coming into this season?
I'm like you. I don't know that much about Kentucky. Okay. I was happy for Nick. Nick's been there for a while, and I don't think Nick got the credit he deserved early. Everybody said, well, he took over for Henderson, and Henderson had put that team together, and Nick did all kinds of these things, but it was really Henderson's team, and this, that, and the other. I think Nick is as hard of a worker as I've seen in the SEC. He tries hard. You mentioned the expectations last year and what they were able to achieve. I thought it was a fabulous year for Kentucky last year.
Absolutely.
So I think the momentum is on their side this year. I think Nick and them, I think anytime you get a contract extension, you got what Nick got, it allows you to kind of catch your breath a little bit, not worry so much about your job as much as you can go focus on the team and trying to get your team back to the NCAA tournament, because that's where it's at now. And that's kind of what we're seeing, kind of like an MLB that we started this conversation about. Just get in the playoffs if you're in the college. Just get there. Once you get there, anything can happen. Now, you'd rather have your games at home and obviously host a regional, better chance in just like a super regional. But we've also seen teams in the past just kind of get into the NCAA tournament and catch fire, just like the Arizona Diamondbacks did, just like the Texas Rangers did. And once you can get in there and you get going, look, baseball is different than what football is. It's different than what basketball is. And hot teams can go a long way in postseason play.
Yeah, they can.
So, Ben, hold that thought because we're up against our final break, and when we come back, we are going to dive into more SEC baseball. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. We will be back with Ben McDonald right after this. Since 1999, residents of Tuscaloosa has depended on this butcher shop and grocery store. I'm talking about South's Finest Meats. With their specialty meats and fresh to frozen bulk vegetables, you can prepare delicious home-cooked meals all week long. At South's Finest Meats, customer service is their number one priority, and when you shop with them, you can expect to be treated like an MVP. Go by and check out South's Finest Meats at 3201 10th Avenue right there in Tuscaloosa. South's Finest Meats, the official sponsor of the Stingray Show. Residents of Tuscaloosa, are you guys upsizing, downsizing, looking for college housing, or even relocating for your job right here to Tuscaloosa? If that's the case, then you need to contact Celeste Hagler, owner and operator of First Class Real Estate South Home Group. She can help you with the buying, selling, and investment needs throughout the state of Alabama. You can contact Celeste at 205-861-5698. Reach out to Celeste again at 205-861-5698 and schedule a consultation to discuss your real estate goals and to live where you love in the state of Alabama. Are you guys in the mood for community goods and great barbecue? That's what you'll find at the Coker Market, located in Coker, Alabama at the four-way intersection off of County Road 140. Their hours of operation are Wednesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until 7 p.m., and their menu items include the Midnight, which is smoked ham, smoked pork, Swiss cheese, Creole mustard, mayonnaise, and a pickle, grilled on French bread. That sandwich is is absolutely amazing. Make sure you go and check out the Coker Market right there at the 4-way intersection in Coker for amazing food and community goods.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We've got slowing north on I-359, heading from I-20 up toward 15th Street. It's an 11-minute delay. We also have slowing west on Highway 82 from Jack Warner Parkway to...
It'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Are you guys in the mood for community goods and great barbecue? That's what you'll find at the Coker Market, located in Coker, Alabama at the 4-way intersection off of County Road 140. Their hours of operation are Wednesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until 7 p.m. and their menu items include the Midnight, which is smoked ham, smoked pork, Swiss cheese, Creole mustard, mayonnaise, and a pickle, grilled on French bread. That sandwich is absolutely amazing. Make sure you go and check out the Coker Market right there at the 4-way intersection in Coker for amazing food and community goods. Welcome back inside of our final segment right here on the Stingray Show. Our guest this evening is Ben McDonald from the SEC Network and the former LSU pitcher and Golden Spikes Award winner. And Ben, I've got to ask you, man, and I've asked other people this as well. Arkansas football in 2023 went 4-8 overall. As of this show right here, basketball for Arkansas is currently 12-11. Man, they are having rough times up there in Fayetteville. What do you feel like is going to be the future for that baseball program this season? Can the baseball team help their feelings a little bit up there in Fayetteville?
Well, tell the folks in Fayetteville that spring's coming and baseball season is coming.
I like it, Ben. I like it.
Tell them to forget about football and basketball for now. Baseball's coming. Yeah, look, Arkansas, it feels like they're there every year, you know. And with what a lot of people and a lot of scouts think is the number one college pitcher out there in Hagen Smith, that's a step in the right direction. He's going to be their ace. Again about teams. I went over and watched LSU Inter Squad the other day, and we were talking about. I said, "Hey, what do you think about Florida?" And we talked about Florida and Vanderbilt and schools, and we got to Arkansas, and he just went Hagen Smith. You know, it's like he said he's the one guy I just can't figure out. I just cannot figure him out. So anytime you can run out Hagen Smith on Friday nights. Brady Tygart is back too, you know, and that's a big, going to be in the rotation this year. You know, I think Dave Van Horn has some pieces and obviously a Hall of Fame coach.
Absolutely.
Thing missing obviously is a national title. They've been so close to winning it, but you know, a lot of people think a lot about Arkansas this year. And I think Peyton Stovall, the Louisiana kid, is really primed to have a big year for them at the plate this year. And so I like Arkansas's pieces just because I think their pitching staff, I really think their pitching staff, and look, I said this a lot, pitching is where it's at, I think, in the SEC right now. I went back and looked and I couldn't believe, and you guys probably remember, but the average ERA last year, team ERA in the SEC for that 30-game schedule was 6.2. That was the average ERA in the SEC. The best ERA was Alabama at 4.62 in SEC play. And, of course, Mississippi State had a 9.5 ERA in SEC play. So pitching is going to be where it's at. We're back in the Gorilla Ball era. Those that hadn't been paying attention, the ball is flying out of the ballpark like it did back in the Gorilla Ball era in the 90s. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's the bats, the balls, the players are bigger and stronger. I don't know. I can't answer that. But it's just a different time right now. So if you have some teams that can really if you have pitching staffs that can hold teams down to just 3 runs or 4 runs a game, you're going to win a lot of games. And I think that's kind of where Arkansas is. I think their offense is going to be above average. But I think the key for them is going to be their pitching staff and how good can Hagen Smith and Tigert and the boys be in that weekend rotation in that bullpen.
Ben, I got to slip out early, but I want to ask this question before I head out. I'm not a jealous person, but I look at a player like Jack Caglione at Florida, and I was like, man, why can't I be built like that guy? That kid is so fun to watch. And that kid has so much upside. It doesn't matter where he's at, pitching at the plate. It doesn't matter. The kid has so much upside to everything he does. A true five-tool kind of guy. What do you see in his game? What do you think his future is? Is it a pitcher? Is it a hitter? Is it both? Is he going to be the next, Shotani? I mean, who is this guy?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what's weird, well, let me start with his body, first of all. Like, when I met him last year, like, when he came out of the dugout, I thought he had clown shoes on. I thought he was joking. Clowns. This dude wears a size 16 shoe, and he's got about this big around, and then his shoulders are this big around, and so at 6'4", 230 pounds he almost looks like a linebacker, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And move and run. And what's crazy is I remember Sully telling me about him 2 years ago. He's like, this Caglione kid's hurt right now, Ben, but wait till you see. But it was all about the pitching. And most people coming out of high school thought he was more on the pitching side than he was on the offensive side as far as hitting goes. And all of a sudden, all he did last year was hit 33 homers, I think it was, and drove in like 90 runs. And all of a sudden, to be honest with you, I don't know what pro scouts like about him the most. I love the big left arm. We know it's a mid to upper 90 fastball. The question again for him is, can he dial it in and get it over the white part of the plate? If he can't do that, I think it's more offense over pitching, and I think that's where most pro scouts are going to see him. But after the pop that he showed, his versatility, his athleticism at first base, I think he could be a hell of a first baseman, to be honest with you, in pro ball with his size and his range and his ability to move. We know what kind of power he's got. So, yeah, he's the odds-on favorite player of the year. He's the odds-on favorite Golden Spikes Award winner. He was the winner of the two-way award last year, the John Olerud two-way award, I think it was last year. So he's a heck of a player, guys. It's going to be big numbers for him. Now, the question for him and Tommy White, who I think are the best two sluggers in the SEC, is can they be patient enough at the plate this year and understand what's going on? Tommy White had all kind of protection around him last year here at LSU. He had Dylan Cruz around him. He had Joe Barra around him. He had some Trey Morgan around him. He doesn't have that protection. So can he be patient enough at the plate, because teams aren't going to pitch to him, I don't think, a whole lot early in the year. Same thing for Caglione is somebody around him is going to have to hit for him to see a lot of hittable pitches this year. Who's going to be that person? Is it going to be Colby Shelton that transferred from Alabama? I don't know, but people are going to have to hit, because I feel like Caglione snuck up on a few people last year.
Yeah, he did.
They look at the numbers going, wait a minute, 33 jacks and 90 ribbies. I don't think I'm going to pitch to that guy right now. I'm going to make somebody else beat me. I think Tommy White's in the same category too, because I think while there's a bunch of great hitters in the SEC, those are the two I think that are going to put up the biggest numbers this year if teams decide to pitch to them or not.
Ben, I appreciate it. I'm going to head out. Stingray's going to take you home. Hey, we always love it when you come on the show. Ben, take care and have a great season, brother.
Take care of yourself. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, Ben, I'm going to ask you about three more teams, and then we'll get out of here. The first one I've got to ask you about is the team that won the SEC tournament last year, the Vanderbilt Commodores up there in Nashville. What are your thoughts on them?
Well, I mean, when you talk about Coach Corbin, you talk about, I think, one of the best coaches and one of the most prepared coaches in college baseball. I love the way he runs his infield, outfield. I love the way he coaches. I love everything about what he does. And, I think Vanderbilt, anytime you get to start with Carter Holton, who's expected to be their Friday night guy on the mound, I think it's a step in the right direction. Futrell got some good experience last year. He's another one of those guys that I think are going to be really good in that weekend rotation. But it's an older team, too. I mean, it feels like Jack Bolger's been around. The catcher's been around for 6 years. He brings back, I'm looking at Maldonado, Diaz, and some other guys, and they always have a really good, when I look at Vanderbilt, Corbin's not been that active a whole lot in the transfer portal. It's just not something. And look, Vanderbilt's a little bit different situation because the academic piece of it, you can't just transfer into Vanderbilt, right? You got to meet all the requirements. And so he's not huge in the transfer portal, but what he is good in is recruiting, and he goes out every year and he gets some of the top guys in the country to come in there. So when I look at Corbin, I look at Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt in most cases is ranked around 5 or 6 right now. And I think it's a good place for them to be, honestly, because I felt like they had a good year last year, and I feel like they're going to be a good year this year too, or have a good season this year as well. But I think the key to them is going to be their pitching staff as well. And I think it's going to begin with Carter Holton, the junior left-hander. He's going to have a big year for Vandy in that number 1 spot.
Since 1999, residents of Tuscaloosa has depended on this butcher shop and grocery store. I'm talking about South's Finest Meats. With their specialty meats and fresh to frozen bulk vegetables, you can prepare delicious home-cooked meals all week long. At South's Finest Meats, customer service is their number 1 priority, and when you shop with them, you can expect to be treated like an MVP. Go by and check out South's Finest Meats at 3201 10th Avenue right there in Tuscaloosa. South's Finest Meats, the official sponsor of the Stingray Show. Guys, we're up against another break, and when we come back, we are going to give you some bonus content from this interview with Ben McDonald. On the other side of the break, we're going to talk about the Texas A&M Aggies and the Auburn Tigers this season in baseball. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the